Hi, and welcome to MindShifters Radio. Today is Friday, March the 20th, 2026. And welcome Carrie, welcome Susan, and welcome Michael.
Excited to see what happens today.
I was just saying, turn your microphone down a little. It's echoing up here. All right. Turn my phone on Do Not Disturb so it won't ring. Okay. So I guess people will come on in. How's everybody doing today? Anything to share before I get started? Susan, are you feeling better?
Yes, better and better. We had a sad thing. Tim and I have been feeding a feral cat 2 miles away from us. We walk there twice a day and feed him. And he got a little partner during that time, and they were inseparable. We noticed he didn't look well yesterday, very badly, actually. So we took him to the vet today and had to put him down. His belly was filled with fluid. He was in pain, and so his partner doesn't know where he is. And it's amazing how sad the loss of animals and the suffering of animals is. I guess it's because they can't speak and because they seem so innocent.
Yeah.
So other than that, all is well.
Good.
How are you?
Doing good. Doing good. I had lunch with one of my best friends and took her. She had ordered 2 copies of the book, so I took her both of those, and we had lunch and just got back about 10 minutes ago.
Wait, that's great.
Yeah.
I received my book. Thank you.
Good, good. I'm glad. Thank you. All right. Well, we will get started. And so we're down to the epilogue. What have I left out? Yes, there were atrocities committed by Native Americans against settlers, but far more were committed in the other direction. Settlers came, took over Native Americans' land, pushed them onto reservations, and if oil or other resources were found on any of the reservations later, the settlers would reclaim the land and force the people out all over again. As school children, we were taught a sweet story of Native people and colonists sharing a celebratory Thanksgiving meal together. But we are not told of the many indigenous peoples, labeled Indians by Christopher Columbus, who were enslaved by the colonists, treated brutally, and sometimes shipped to Spain to be sold into slavery. We are also not told of how Native populations were decimated by diseases like smallpox, measles, and influenza, brought by the settlers to which Native populations had no immunity. According to the NPR report in 2017 entitled An American Secret, The Untold Story of Native American Enslavement, as many as 5 million Native peoples were enslaved between 1492 and 1900. While Native American males sold more cheaply than African males, women and children were considered the most valuable of all, largely because they could reproduce to create more slaves or could be used to satisfy the sexual appetites of Europeans. In 1705, the Virginia General Assembly stated in their code, all servants imported or brought into the country who were not Christians in their native country shall be made slaves. All Negro, mulattoes, and Indian slaves within this domain shall be held to be real estate. If any slave resists his master and shall happen to be killed while being disciplined or corrected, the master shall be free of all punishment, as if such accident never happened. One of the original purposes of early American law enforcement was to catch slaves, Native American and African, and keep them in line. Racially biased slave patrols in the early 1700s encouraged a kind of dehumanization of these people that remains entrenched in the very roots of our present-day social system. In 2025, millions of people worldwide are victims of human trafficking in the form of forced child labor, sexual exploitation, illegal adoptions, and as child soldiers. Though slavery still exists in a massive way, government agencies and funding are being cut so that victims are less likely to be recovered or even recognized. Who are the real savages here? Who can fault Native people for wanting to avenge their families and ancestors? Returning to the Native American girl written about in the beginning of this book, I asked myself, was I that girl? Is she part of my past generations? In answer to my own questions and knowing what I now know, I assert that the experience of one person impacts another, whether or not they are known to one another. Perhaps I had tapped into the little girl's life and connected with her soul. Did I unconsciously volunteer to face the issue of abuse for her as well as for myself? Whatever the answer to this question, I now choose to heal for us both. The little Native American girl accepted her fate of a life of repeated abuse and may well have died of violence, disease, or perhaps by her own hand. She did not know how to escape her situation. Similarly, I went for years living with a learned helplessness that allowed me to endure repeated punishments that might well have led to a fate similar to hers. With much gratitude to God, to Yeshua, Jesus, and to my eternal partner, Dr. Michael Ryce, I learned that I do have choice and I do have agency. I gathered tools that taught me to live intentionally and to forgive the past energies that had driven me downward. While still in process, I am now experiencing a more abundant life filled with love and joy. I have shifted to thriving as a human being while remembering that not every woman has been as blessed. The hidden war at home. Domestic abuse and violence are not confined to any one people, race, or gender, and they produce wounds to the human body and soul that cross every border and creed. We are speaking of wars that are waged in the shadows, often behind closed doors, where victims' silence seems to condone and certainly perpetuates their captivity. As I said before, abuse is not only physical. It can be emotional, psychological, financial, and spiritual as well. It can show up as control, isolation, and humiliation, all of which can result in the slow erasing of one's sense of worth. Abuse affects men as well as women, children as well as elders. Many stay in an abusive relationship or situation because they fear being alone or because their abuser has convinced them they cannot survive without them. Others stay because they have been told by their religion, culture, or family that endurance is a virtue or that forgiving is required, even while the victim must remain in harm's way. Often, as in my own case, the perpetrator was someone known to the victim, someone who is expected to care for them and not abuse them. While there are victims of abuse among every race and sex, some groups are more vulnerable and at higher risk than others. And while the statistics are already shockingly high, the numbers represent only cases that are reported. Many are never reported or investigated. The most devastating effects of abuse are not laid down only in the moment. After effects may include that the abused person comes to feel that he or she deserves to be abused, that abuse is normal, and that there is no way out. In addition, long-term effects of abuse result in future generations being affected unless brought to light for healing. Today, human trafficking is finally being discussed, though not nearly enough. Why? Because human trafficking, though a sick practice, remains a highly profitable business. Unfortunately, The United States is one of the worst offenders in the world for human trafficking and cheap labor, child labor, and sexual exploitation. Human trafficking of Native Americans remains a large problem, rarely seen in the news, as Native Americans are often seen as less than human. Law enforcement has historically turned a blind eye or refused to take trafficking reports seriously, and jurisdictional disagreements, whether the issue belongs to the reservation or to the state, often resulting in no action being taken at all. According to statistics from the Urban Indian Health Institute, compiled from a survey of 71 U.S. cities in 2016, murder is the third leading cause of death of Native women, the rate being 10 times higher than the national average. The question, what will we do? Here are some suggestions. Watch Murder in Bighorn. It's a 2023 docuseries whose purpose is to humanize victims. Consider what the movement Murdered and Missing Indigenous Women declares. We need people on the front lines, advocating for those who cannot advocate for themselves, literally, because they're no longer here. We need to give communities and victims a voice. Protest when government officials themselves become involved in trafficking. Assist in the opening of shelters. Have honest conversations, as each friend who listens without judgment puts a crack in the wall of generational pain. If, on the other hand, you are one of the ones living in fear, know this: you are not alone. And you are not to blame. There are people and organizations who will help you find safety and rebuild your life. The moment you choose to believe that your life, your peace, and your freedom matter, healing begins. If you're ready to take that next step, please feel free to reach out. Together, we can uncover the patterns that may be holding you back and explore the steps you can take to move forward. I offer one-on-one sessions to assist individuals in navigating personal challenges and discovering the tools needed for transformation. I would be honored to guide you through the process. My sessions are available for a fee of $80 an hour, and then I put a link. And I think I already read the section on the book cover, but I'll read it again. I've got it here at the back of the book. The cover story, and for those who may not have received their book yet, that's what it looks like. So the front cover of this book tells a visual story. I knew what I wanted to represent the book, but I did not consciously know why. After the cover was complete, I began to look into Native lore and find the meanings behind each segment of the picture. And I was amazed at how Spirit had guided me to the choices I had made. The Native American girls represent the story told in the introduction of this book, but they also point to our own generations and the Aboriginal beginnings many of us share. A teepee divides the younger girl from the older one. Though they are both the same girl, they appear in different time, showing that we move through time and space. Our past is always with us. How we perceive our lives forms the mold we use to create our world. A teepee is a temporary shelter from the elements. It has to be strong enough to endure and protect, yet mobile enough to easily take down, put up, and carry. It represents more than a house. It represents home, a place where family gathers and love is shared. We can feel at home anywhere, or we can be home. There is a difference. We are sojourners on this earth, dwelling in many places, but often, like the girls on the cover, many of us find ourselves outside the protection of the home. The mountains on the cover are celestial, representing love, clarity, and peace coming from the highest. They are abundance made manifest, though they are almost hidden from sight behind the darkness of the journey. They signify that there is an abundance of love, clarity, and peace, always coming from our very source, though at times we must look beyond our personal issues to be able to see them. We must look with more than our physical eyes. High up, the mountain air is cleaner and clearer, like the breath of the earth. We must learn to be breathed by the very breath of God. The horse stands for the stamina and power that carries us through this great journey called life. The flowing mane is the freedom and grace we find along the way. The wolf has different meanings that represent stages of most of our lives. One stage is a lack of trust, feeling threatened, and the perceived need to survive. The other stage comes with time. It's intellect, head knowledge, evolving into instinct and intuition, heart wisdom. Howling represents our standing firm and setting and defending our boundaries. The Black Panther represents the protection given to us by our source, Creator God. It represents our internal courage and the power over the darkness, our ability to overcome our fears, and our conviction that we can drop our defenses and live in trust. Both the wolf and the panther are Native American totems that symbolize an important truth for us as well. Though they are barely visible within the clouds in the picture, though their presence is often not seen or sensed in real life, they are ever present, moving gently and gracefully before us, like the Holy Spirit. A Course in Miracles, Lesson 20, Section 5, verses 35 and 36 reminds us, you may wonder how you can be at peace when while you are in time, there is so much that must be done before the way of peace is open. Perhaps this seems impossible to you, but ask yourself if it is possible that God would have a plan for your salvation that does not work. Once you accept his plan as the one function that you would fulfill, there will be nothing else the Holy Spirit will not arrange for you without your effort. It will go before you, making straight your path and leaving in your way no stones to trip on, no obstacles to bar your way. Nothing you need will be denied you. Not one seeming difficulty will fail to melt away before you reach it. You need take thought for nothing, careless of everything, except the only purpose that you would fulfill. As that was given you, so will its fulfillment be. God's guarantee will hold against all obstacles, for it rests on certainty and not contingency. It rests on you. And what can be more certain than a son or daughter of God? The blackbirds or ravens in flight, rising up out of the past into the light, are a reflection of our healing process. They symbolize recovery, rebirth, and the peace that passes all understanding that comes to us when we take our darkness up into the light. They represent a link between heaven and earth, messengers to and from God, and a change in consciousness that brings us soaring to new heights of understanding. They represent spiritual freedom, eternal life, the human soul, and they function as wise and intelligent guides. The bright flash in the sky is an opening through which rebirth can take place. It brings us spiritual illumination, wisdom, and strength from a higher source. It represents clarity of truth and awareness or insight that can be seen even in the darkest hour. The multiple streams of lightning that brighten the lower, darker parts of the cover stand for the light coming down from heaven to show us our own darkness. Lightning is sacred, holy, and a touch of God. It is our promise of resurrection out of our past darkness and into life more abundantly. Choosing for transformation is up to us, and this will begin once we are willing to look upon our demons, inner darkness, and lies and let them go in order to accept his plan and move toward its fulfillment. Are you ready for this journey toward healing generations? Let us do it together, one breath at a time. Love and blessings, Jeanie Shaw. An invitation to continue. Congratulations on opening a door to a new way of living. Healing yourself is a way of life that few people are even aware exists. Am I reading your part, Michael? No. Healing yourself is a way of life that few people are even aware exists. We are here to support you in living at a level of awareness and restoration that philosophers, princes, and kings have only dreamed of. Take a moment now to notice your breath. Notice what feels different, even subtly, in your body. your emotions, or your awareness. Healing rarely announces itself with drama. More often, it arrives quietly as a little more space, a little more gentleness, or a deeper sense of ease where tension once lived. You may feel relief. You may feel unsettled. You may feel both. Whatever is present is welcome. Nothing here requires completion, mastery, or perfection. There is no finish line to cross, and nothing you need to prove. This work continues as you live it, one choice, one breath, one moment at a time. Staying supported on this path is both simple and practical. Begin by returning to the breath as a daily practice, especially when you feel triggered, overwhelmed, or unsure. Call into the MindShifter Radio Show if you have questions, or listen regularly to continue building new brain cells. Link to the show that can be found at, and I give a link. Use the wake-up sheets when old reactions surface, bringing hidden dynamics into awareness so they can be breathed through and healed. Let forgiveness become a lived practice, and allow each step forward to create more space for clarity, ease, aliveness, and love. You are not finished healing, and you are not behind. Healing is not a destination to reach, but a way of meeting what arises without fear or hostility and allowing love to do what it naturally does when given room to flow. Some layers may already feel lighter. Others may only now be making themselves known. All of it belongs. Ongoing support is available through our living, expanding library, the Heartland Forgiveness app, free download on either Apple or Google, and other apps currently in development. Our 20,000 plus page website, thousands of hours of free audio and video recordings, and opportunities for one-on-one guidance and connection. We also offer self-guided intensive options as well as online and residential intensives. Choose what supports you now. Return to it often and allow us and this work to walk with you, one breath, one choice, one healing moment at a time, extending love in your direction. Acknowledgments. This book would not have been possible without the loving support of my eternal partner, Dr. Michael Ryce. Thank you for encouraging me to return to college to gain my psychology degree. Thank you for your understanding as I spent many hours doing classwork and writing this book. Thank you for being my mentor, for teaching me the true Aramaic process of forgiveness, and for holding the space, that sacred act of standing present in love without judgment until I could remember who I am when I faltered. Words cannot express my thanks to my parents, Jim and Alice Morse, for raising me with love and for supporting me when I got lost in my erroneous perceptions. Thank you for being willing not only to proofread, but also to champion my telling of this story. Thanks to my son and daughter-in-law, Ryan and Gabrielle Shaw, for being willing to allow me to share my past experiences, understanding that it is your genetics and your children's genetics, as well as mine, that we are healing. Thank you for your assistance in proofreading and illustrating part of this book. Many thanks to my professors who guided me in research as I applied standard psychology principles to my self-healing work, resulting in a blend of ideas that helped lead me to mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical healing. Thank you also for proofreading my many papers, which now make up a portion of this book. I offer heartfelt thanks to my editors for their insight, care, and dedication. Your thoughtful suggestions, steady support, and willingness to walk with this material helped shape these pages with clarity and integrity. I am deeply grateful for the time and the presence you brought to this work. Thanks to Farhan Saeed, my assistant in designing the cover. This included taking my pictures and ideas and turning them into one blended image. Thank you for all the times you made adjustments and changes during the evolution of the cover. Thanks to you, my reader, for your support. Please pass this book on. Share the tools, the healing, and let the breath of love that has awakened in you ripple outward to others. The cover designed by me, the design assistant Farhan Saeed, illustrator Ryan and Gabrielle Shaw, editing by Sally Voorhees, Cheryl Ellis, Dr. Michael Ryce, and Susan Hulsman Bingham. published by Jeanette Shaw, doing business as Mind, Heart, and Being. And then there's reference pages. And then my bio. With a BA in psychology, I'm a creative educator and guide with over 30 years of teaching experience. I'm a practitioner in the fields of creative spiritual direction, self-healing, healing through relationships, anger and grief resolution, stress management, identifying purpose, and especially the inner process of forgiveness. Over the years, I've developed an uncanny intuitive ability to touch people where it hurts, and then with expert guidance, support the healing of issues hidden, perhaps for lifetimes. I assist my eternal partner, Dr. Michael Ryce, in travel workshops and residential intensives at our teaching center in the Ozark Mountains and at retreat centers across the country. I also facilitate Healing the Whole Woman residential intensives and workshops. The primary focus of Healing the Whole Woman is on women's issues, particularly on moving past the experience of abuse. In my workshops, I address the whole person, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. I offer one-on-one support services to men, women, and children individually, as couples, or in groups. In sessions, I will combine clear intellectual and spiritual direction with practical, workable tools to provide personalized guidance. My presentations have included private workshops, as well as workshops in physicians' offices, prisons, mental health facilities, businesses, schools, and churches. I have facilitated women's retreats independently, as well as on shared platforms with other speakers. I've also keynoted women's conferences and provided support services at a variety of other events. My work is for those who want to better understand how to turn crisis into opportunities, conflict into serenity, and pain, whether physical, mental, or emotional, into healing, aliveness, and abundance. I address underlying causes behind the effects that manifest in people's lives, homes, and workplaces. My curriculum is adaptable to the venue and the immediate needs of the audience. Above all, I provide effective tools that show each person how to move beyond merely surviving into living with delight and aliveness. And then I give an example of past workshops in my purpose statement. And then it moves into an invitation for businesses. So kind of presenting in a business way what I could offer their business. And then we move into testimonials, which I won't read, but there's multiple ones of mostly women who have attended intensives that I've done. And thank you to everyone who chooses to heal and move us closer to critical mass. And then, Michael, if you have a book, I'll let you read the afterword.
I do have a book. Thank you. Awesome. Awesome work, often awesome organization of the material. And I had the privilege of writing the afterword, which is entitled, Why Deep Breaths Throughout the Journey. For humans, in the beginning was the cosmology of knowing, based on the Creator's breath within us. This experience was brought into expression through the Aramaic language and has never been fully captured in any other tongue. Our shared state of oneness was direct and unfiltered before the fog of time and the intellectual barriers erected by creeds based in institutionalized fear and misinterpretation intervened. No errors of foreign cosmologies, no middlemen, no distance created by dogma, doctrines, or external laws. Before spoken commandments, teachings, or mistaken beliefs, there was simply the presence of the Creator, love, and human life, love, in direct relationship through the movement of the Creator's breath within. It is our destiny to live in that experience. Healing generations one breath at a time has accomplished its purpose fully and completely. Your inherent worth was fully established with the free gift of your first breath. You have already been approved of by the Creator. There is nothing to earn. No matter your challenges, there is no deficit in you. Only held breath to be reclaimed, only debris to be forgiven. Jeanie has delivered the original ancient Aramaic technology of forgiveness and breath that, on a practical level, liberates us from the survival mode and error. She reveals how to participate in and accomplish your own healing throughout your family, and hopefully inspires you to support others in doing the same. Her mission is to give each the tools for the understanding of precisely, according to the original Aramaic words of Yeshua, how to be restored to the experience of our most natural state. Original grace has been masterfully fulfilled. Forgive. Breathe. Presence love if fear, grief, rage, or pain surfaces in any of its many forms, whatever the apparent cause. Welcome each precious opportunity to heal as you grow in understanding and how to access and dissolve any demons you may have inherited or acquired. Reclaim your breath daily, especially under stress. You were born of love. Your core purpose as a human being is to live as the presence of love. Engage the work assigned and experience peace, P-E-A-C-E, by peace, being fully restored to your birthright. It almost feels like there should be an amen after that.
Yay.
Awesome piece of work.
Thank you.
Let's see what kind of conversation ensues from here. What opens up and where it goes from here. Do we continue the discussion of your book and its principles? Well, that depends on our audience. What kind of questions? What kind of input? What's happening for you? And I'll turn it back to you, Jean, to determine what happens next.
Go ahead, Sally.
I want to applaud both of you for the work that it took for this monumental piece of work to come forward. And, you know, it's powerful to everyday people to see, feel, and realize what healing is possible when we do the work. And while Michael was reading, I often am doing tasks or things while I'm listening, because this is the time of day where I get to just kind of catch up on things and also hear wisdom from you both. It occurred to me why I often go to the gym and listen from the gym, because as a woman who has experienced similar sexual abuse early in life, I am extremely, I have been extremely good at holding my breath. And, you know, when I go to the gym, I can't hold my breath. I have to breathe, and I don't have to think about it. I'm really, really breathing. And so it just occurs to me, you know, there are parts, as much work as I've done, and I've been working on healing this particular pain for 27 years as a therapist, as a healer, as a woman who also supports other women. There's still parts that I recognize that go unconscious and scare me into thinking that I need to, for some reason, hold my breath. And so it's now exciting. It used to be I judge myself for still having work that needs to be done. And it's now exciting to realize there are no limits to the strength within us to the courage to go through hard, the the power and beauty that lies on the other side of that pain. And so it is. I am in awe and gratitude. Wasn't even sure what I was going to say, but felt the surge of wanting to give voice to this piece of work and how much it has meant in my personal life. So please know how deeply grateful I am, and I will share it, and I will salute it. And I will say that when I first saw the cover, I thought, oh my gosh, I've seen this before. Like, I've known this cover before it was a cover. And that wasn't anything I actually saw with my physiological eyes. It was an inner thing. And thank you for meeting me in such deep and tender places.
Thank you for being on the team.
Amen.
Anybody else?
Well, I'm going to throw a story in here because of what you shared, Sally, that I actually shared at the beginning of the book as well. And I share it again because in order to make anything functional, as long as we're living out of perception and carbon-based memory, the brain cells containing that information need to be reinforced in order to even become available. You hear it once and you go, wow, that's cool. But can the mind generate it again if those brain cells aren't reinforced? So there's a term in Hawaii that the native Hawaiians use, and the term is haole. It's a word that describes the native Hawaiians' experience of the white man. When native Hawaiians met, they greeted each other by touching forehead to forehead. Aloha is virtually the exact same word as Rachma in Aramaic. I suspect the native Hawaiians are one of the lost 12 tribes of Israel. Rachma, aloha are the same thing. They're filters in the frontal lobes of the brain. The way that the native Hawaiians greeted each other was by touching forehead to forehead and breathing with each other, thus breathing each other's nasal air. Specifically, they did not breathe the air that came out of the mouth because they considered that toxified by our words. Literally brilliant understanding of cymatics. But they breathed each other's nasal air. And when the white man came, he stuck out his hand to check for weapons. Haole means greets without breath. Now, my offering here, taking that Hawaiian understanding and expanding it a little bit, is realizing that in the creation story, what made us thinking, speaking beings was the addition to breath to a body that was made of dust. Literally, it was the breath that introduced intelligence to this so-called physical body, which has no intelligence of its own, aside from the atomic intelligence that anything has. The intelligence comes from the breath. So to expand just a little bit, that idea of the haole greets without breath. And it's interesting, if you go and spend time with the native Hawaiians, they'll tell us about how the missionaries came to do good, and they did well. And what they'll tell you is that when the missionaries came, they had Bibles, and the native Hawaiians had land. And now the native Hawaiians have Bibles. The missionaries did well. They now have the land. It is not just a lack of breath that one brings in that word howling, but is a lack of intelligence, integrity, compassion, and truth. Howley greets without breath, thinks, and I put the word thinks in quotes, thinks without intelligence. There is no correction in your generational patterns, in your acquired pains, dramas, or traumas without the activity of the breath. So to heal, one must give up being a howling and think and process and imagine and look and experience with breath. Then and only then does true healing occur.
Anybody else have anything to share or anything you'd like to discuss?
I wonder if, Michael, you can talk about the 3 different kinds of breath, because I think that's critical to what you just were talking about.
Yes, an excellent point. In the Aramaic, there are 3 descriptors of breath. One of them is the breath that everything and everybody breathes. A chicken breathes, a dog breathes, a bear breathes, and humans breathe. And that's just the ordinary, basically taking in a breath. And then the second level is the breath taken in incoherent states where hostility or fear are active. And that would be the breath that destroys or enhances the energies of destruction that are held within one's own form. And then there's a third level of breath. In Aramaic, it's ruka de kudsha. Properly translated, the closest we can in this language, those words, ruka de kudsha, would speak of a feminine elemental force. And this is where the feminine has been missing on Earth. That which is manifest, that which is reduced in its rate of vibration to the level of what we call physical. The genderization in words, in Italian or Spanish or French, there's a masculine gender indicator to a word, there's a feminine. The things that are manifest are masculine. The things not manifest are feminine, gendered feminine. So in Aramaic, the breath is gendered feminine. And it's the thing that's missing for most people, the intelligence that comes in when we breathe. And it is a feminine elemental force that, when active, undoes the effects of our errors and reveals the truth. So if we try to function in life without this activity, this feminine activity in us, we are functioning without intelligence, without healing capacity. So she who undoes the effects of errors, literally, when you can take the breath into the deepest hidden place in you, right down to the very tiptoes of your genes, then that breath, being given access there, will undo whatever incoherent energy is present, whatever sin energy. Remember, sin just means an energy that's off the mark. Whatever's there, if the breath is given access to it, it will dissolve it. So she who undoes the effects of our errors. And then when that is done, when that error is undone, perception is collapsed, and we now have access to the actuality of the creation and the actuality the potential of every given moment is now revealed to us, rather than being stuck in the cycles of perception from past unresolved traumas and dramas. Is that fit for you? What you're looking for, Carrie?
Yeah, I often think of that breath as conscious breathing, and that the other type of breathing comes from our unconscious. It's
Yes.
automatic, whereas that Rukkadekucha breath is a conscious breath, and there are many ways to do that. The ancient yogis have developed ways for doing conscious breathing. But I think a lot of that you have to be in the know, you have to have training. Whereas if you can just sit and do conscious breathing, and for me, I combine it with some journaling, some writing. But that conscious breathing is the Rukkadekucha. It's not the two breaths that come from the unconscious. And
Yes.
the breath in anger and fear, it's a halting, constricted breath. People talk about holding their breath, and in conscious breathing and the conscious connected breath that you do, that you teach, there is a natural pause, a natural still point, which that unconscious breath and the anger, when you're holding your breath, is completely different. It's formed by a different energy, a destructive sort of energy. And it serves to heighten that, I think. So I think it's important for us to understand those differences in the breath, and to live, as we aim to live our lives consciously, we should also aim to breathe consciously. And even if we're not sitting in meditation or lying down and doing still point breathwork or anything like that, we're out in the world, we're having relationship with people, interactions, and something comes up, we can take that moment to breathe. And there is one also really good breath technique by the yogis. It's called the Soham breath. And Soham is literally the sound of the breath itself. So if you're in anxiety or anything that's starting to bring up that unconscious holding of the breath or constriction, just breathe consciously. So as you inhale, hum as you exhale. Very simple, and it gets you back into your conscious mind. It gets you back, it brings you right back and releases some of that anxiety almost immediately. So having that conscious breath as part of one of our tools, then we can go back later and say, wait a minute, what happened there? And then we can do the work around that, to clear that and heal that and forgive those energies within us, those disintegrative energies. But I think we need to really focus on that Rukkadekucha breath, the breath of spirit, if you like, the breath of life, the life force energy. So that's why breathing is so important. And they do it in sports, in music, and all of these things. They have conscious breathing. So thank you for that explanation. And I think it's easy enough to do when we remember when we're in a situation is to, breathe. And that's conscious breathing. It's not, one of the other two breaths.
Right on. And choosing to be focused in love when you take that conscious breath. That you
Absolutely.
purposely
Yeah.
choose to focus your attention on the presence of love that you are, and using the breath to deliver that love, one, into your own cellular structure, right into and through the genes and out into the world. Yes.
Sometimes I'm not there, though, and I'm not in
That's
the
the word.
love, and I start the breath, and then that gets me there. It's like I need the breath to help me with that mental shift.
Yeah, if we go into unconscious breathing, it definitely takes the conscious effort to make the shift, to form the mind in the direction of active present love. Then applying forgiveness allow the perceptual constructs that are based in pain to simply collapse, and the chosen focused breath of love to continue to flow in physiology.
Thank you.
I'm with you. Yay. Thank you. Thanks for bringing that focus around. Miss.
Anybody else? We have about 7 minutes.
Well,
Go ahead,
Jeanie,
Susan.
I texted you separately, but maybe I can speak for others. Maybe I can't, so forgive me, everybody, if I'm assuming things, but I am so just washed in what you read. And it was cumulative over the many days that you were reading. Maybe we'll all figure out what to say a little later on. It's hard to find how to talk right now. This is a huge piece of work you've done. You and Michael
And you were
well, I rode
phenomenal
the
as my
crowd.
band.
Anyway, thanks so much for that book.
Thank you. And I did send out your friend's book today, and also sent you a couple more because you're passing it around.
Oh, great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank
And
you.
Yeah.
Susan, I'd like to acknowledge you. You know, you keep saying, well, I did the reworking of the words, I did the editing. Yeah, so what? There's another big thing that you did, and that was there was a shift in Jeanie that I observed as you stood in the space of inspiration and supporting what she was doing. That was a really important piece of the puzzle, I think. So thank you.
You're most welcome. Um,
It would be interesting, and I have a little bit of a wish list that has not been fulfilled in doing this. That throughout most of the reading, the audience was feminine. Little participation from men of the world, and we do have a couple of gentlemen here right now. I'd love to hear if you have any thoughts to add. Chuck or Terry. Going to remain silent, gentlemen. Okay.
They both.
Does anyone else have a thought to share, a question to ask? About anything we've covered in the last 16 years of doing this radio show? Or where we're going from here?
well,
So Jeanie,
okay.
go for it.
I've got a question that's much too big for the few minutes that's left. But I'm trying to distinguish. Michael, I remember you did some work some days and weeks ago. You were breathing and you said you're experiencing grief. I remember the Roman Catholics saying that Mary experienced pain, but she didn't suffer. I think of grief as sort of a kind of suffering. So I'm taking it back to that idea in the Roman Catholic Church. And I think what they meant was that she was pure. She was a free, pure soul. So she felt pain. And I think about my cat that I just had to put down. I wonder if he suffered or whether he merely felt and observed pain and accepted it. I just love sometime to have a discussion about how we can move into being like animals, accepting, experiencing, being with, without considering that we are suffering. And then back to your grief that you were feeling, whether you feel you were suffering then or just feeling pain. Big fat question.
Well, my offer would be that in that experience, and I think I'm tapping into the one you were talking about, I was experiencing suffering as a result of my own thought disorders. And part of the work, part of, like, in particular, the quantum still point training, it's a 3 to 5 day personal training. And part of it is experiencing sensations in the body that most people classify as pain. And if you talk to anybody that's gone through the quantum still point, what most of them will share is that instead of adding the suffering component, the thought disorders, I had a part of my body interact with the wall when I slid. And there was a sensation that happened in my structure. And, part of that training is to convert pain to sensation, to realize, okay, there's an energy moving here, but I don't have to make it something other than a sensation in my form. And actually, I was just sharing with Jeanie just before the show, I'm working on the final cover for That's All Greek to Me. And the back page of the book, we have to have the ISBN number on it, so that will be there. But other than that, the whole back page is simply going to be the words of Yeshua. I came to end suffering. Suffering is SIN, self-inflicted nonsense. We do it with our own minds when we're in denial and dissociate from that which is causing our pain. And we turn it into something like we're having fun with Lincoln at this point. Lincoln, at times, he's 18 months, knows exactly what he wants, and he wants what he wants when he wants it. And it has become, in many of those circumstances, a real Sarah Bernhardt. Lincoln will go the indicator he wants this, and we'll say no. And the hands will go up and clasp the head, and the head will be thrown back, and he'll wail. Self-inflicted nonsense. So one of the objectives is to put an end to this self-inflicted nonsense, and how we amplify and intensify with our own errant mind energy the sensations that are going on in the actual world, in the actuality of our form, and being able to let go of that, forgive that.
Yeah, that does make sense. I've had the experience lately with what's going on in the world, observing it, sometimes feeling shocked, many times feeling shocked, feeling depressed, feeling anxious, but it's as if it's happening at a distance now, and I'm more watching it. And I don't know whether that means I'm on the right track or what, but it isn't as if I succumb to it. I just watch those reactions, and they don't have the intensity. It's like I'm okay, even though it's happening.
You
But
haven't added the errant mind energy to the experience. I mean, we can look out and see an atrocity happening,
yeah,
and we can stay connected to love, visit that atrocity, and bring support and healing,
mm,
unless we have our own errant mind energy triggered by that atrocity, live in denial of that mind energy, and now go into suffering and then want to blame something or somebody for our suffering. Put an end to that, and what I hear you describing is the fruit of your work. You've let go of a lot of that, and therefore you can observe, yeah, this is not right. This needs to change. Something in fact, this may be accurately described as an horrific happening,
yeah,
and I don't have to suffer over it. I can bring love to it. I can bring my human life when I heal my own mind.
right. And usually I find myself breathing deeply as just a response instead of getting mad. It's breathing. I don't
You
think I'm
realize,
doing the kind of breathing you're teaching yet. Maybe I
oh, I
will.
think I was just going to say, this is the first time I've heard you admit that. You always talk about, oh, I can't breathe. Listen to what you just said. Oh, I'm breathing deeply. That's it. That's it. You're doing it.
Thanks, Michael. Thank you for giving me credit. Good. Well, I am doing it. Yay. Thank you for that
That's what
answer.
ends suffering. That's what ends suffering. So one can be in pain. You know, I'm sure on the cross there was pain, but there wasn't suffering. There was conscious awareness and the understanding of what was happening.
You're right. That's a lovely thought. And the amount of work he did to get to the cross, it happened
No,
right up until he got there. He was doing the
yes,
work.
absolutely. The one of the biggest healing crisis. I mean, if as a naturopath, if I were standing beside Yeshua in the Garden of Gethsemane, I would say there's one of the deepest healing crises I've ever seen. It literally would be the sweating of blood, the depth of the release. That's what it would look like from a
Man.
medical perspective. And
Yeah.
well, that's what he did. And he stepped out of that garden in a whole different state of being, a whole different state of mind, where when he's faced with a high priest servant, instead of doing what the mind of man would do, and that is what John was doing, you know, slash, burn, let's kill this enemy, he stood there as healing, for the man was going to have him mercilessly slaughtered. And my take is that he realized as a human being, love, who he was, and did not give that part of himself up to the torture and destruction of his body. Therefore, they couldn't kill him, even though they could kill his body. Staying conscious as the being that he was. And he demonstrated that so powerfully with the high priest servant, who he reaches out and heals him. And you know, you've heard me say it before. People say, well, yeah, did you notice that doing that got him dead? And it's like, yeah, I noticed that healing the high priest servant got him dead. Did you notice they couldn't keep him that way? He didn't come to demonstrate the power of suffering, as many people are still, those who have not resolved their suffering are still talking about him and how you should join him in his suffering. He came to demonstrate the power of living as the presence of love, reaching out to the archenemy, the high priest servant, and healing him. And they couldn't keep him dead. And that was why. That's my take.